We're talking about, are we live?
We're live.
We're live. Okay. It wasn't quite clear. It was still kind of uploading here in the back. So today we're talking about 3 ways that we get stuck in the weeds while we are problem solving. So how 3 ways traditional problem solving is keeping us stuck in the weeds and what to do differently. So when I talk about being stuck in the weeds, I'm talking about being stuck in that firefighting mode when every day just seems to be one thing after the next. And you never really get to the important stuff on your desk. So we're gonna kind of look at that, the 3 ways we're getting stuck and what to do instead today so that you have something to walk away with and to implement. So you get to do a lot more of the things that you want to be doing during your workday and not so much firefighting. So if we're just getting to know each other, I'll introduce myself quickly. My name's Melissa. I'm a certified professional coach and a leadership. I do leadership development, executive coaching, and management consulting. So what that means is I work with leaders such as yourself. And when I say leaders, these are people who lead a team or teams, either in an executive level position, higher management, middle management, and even frontline managers. And I help them look at the way that they're leading and integrate people first strategies that allow them to be more effective, to allow them to get people working together, collaborating, and moving towards one goal in the same direction and doing that effectively so that the leader, instead of managing people and managing problems, can get back to leadership, supporting and focusing on the long term. So that's a little bit about me. Kelsey-Ann is joining me today. Kelsey-Ann is part of my team. Kelsey-Ann, a little bit about yourself.
I am part of your team. I am your marketing director. And yeah, we live and breathe these strategies. That what you share with your clients is what we do every day.
Yeah. So what's fun about Kelsey-Ann joining me on these lives is she's bringing the employee perspective. So what it's like to be part of that and how it's different from other types of management.
Definitely.
Yeah. So problem solving. If you are in a position of leadership, if you own a business, if you've gotten to that point, you're a great problem solver. There is no doubt in my mind. Every client that I work with has really strong problem solving skills. And it's really what gets us in the position that we're in. We're super resourceful. We're great at problem solving. We can identify problems, figure out how to fix them, and get it done. And then, we take those problems because it is our strength. When we help people, when we help our team, when we're dealing with problems, we want to use our strengths. But that is creating other problems for us. It's keeping us in this problem solving mode. And if we're solving the problems of today, we're not figuring out, being proactive and solving the problems of tomorrow. And that becomes a problem in staying current, being innovative, working smarter, if all we're doing is solving the problems of today. So let's talk about those 3 traps. Why is this happening? This is, a great skill that you have, and it's keeping you stuck. So what is happening? Kelsey-Ann, without even going into those 3 things, what are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts, I keep on seeing the video of the advice monster.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if anybody hasn't seen it, it's a great clip on YouTube, a video on YouTube about how our advice monsters come out And, sometimes we don't even realize they're coming out.
Yeah.
So it's always, it kind of reminds me, myself, especially like in a role as a parent, we always want a solution to our kids. But sometimes, we have to take that seat back and not. And that's extremely hard to do, because if you are a parent, you know that half the time you could probably get it done in half the time that it's going to take your child to do it.
Mhm.
And you only have so much time to get it done before you have to go to your next spot. So, but yeah, and I think that example is very kind of similar in the workplace as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you're going about your day. Your employee walks in, hey, I have a problem. You've encountered that problem a million times. So what a joy to have a solution. What a joy to be that person to fix this problem. And I know the solution. Why wouldn't I just jump into it? But when we jump to solve other people's problems, and we give the advice, we offer them the solution, or we take it over, we're kind of, if you can imagine, we're all cars driving along, doing our thing. It's kind of like we're like, imagine opening the driver door, grabbing the person, like throwing them in the back seat or even throwing them in the trunk. And don't worry, I know where we're going. I'm going to take the driver's seat and I'm going to drive along. Well, when you're driving other people's cars, who's driving your car? And how many cars can you drive at the same time?
Not more than one safely.
Right. And I find that's a really great metaphor to really represent what it's like when we go into that problem solving mode and we want to do for. And there's three things that happen when we do for like that and we take over the driver's seat. We take the steering wheel and we make it happen. The first problem is that it goes well and people become reliant. So now you have all of these people knocking at your door saying, hey, take the steering wheel. Hey, get in my car. Take my steering wheel. You can drive this. You've driven it before. That's worked for me. And I don't have the stress of taking care of it. I don't have the stress of creating a solution. So, you have those people who are ready to hand you the steering wheel. So there's more and more knocks on your door. The second thing that can happen is that people will take the advice. They'll say, yeah, get in the driver's seat. Tell me what to do. And then it doesn't work. It's your fault. You gave me the bad advice. You told me to do it this way. And even imagine that, you give the advice, but they might not interpret it the same way. They might not see it the same way. They might miss some steps. They're not going to do it the way that you would do it. So the outcome is not necessarily going to be the same, but because you gave the advice, you took responsibility for this solution. So therefore, it's not my fault. Failed. You gave me the solution.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lack of responsibility. And then the third thing that happens is because it's not coming from within, it's coming from the outside, people tend to resist. They come with a lot of objections, right? You give them the solution that they ask for, and they come up with all the reasons why it's not going to work, or they're going to say, yeah, walk away and not do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you spend all of this time maybe doing some research, looking up stuff, figuring out what is the right solution, and it's not solved. So it's still a problem. a problem that's taking up you and your team's time.
Mhm.
So what do you think of problem solving now, Kelsey, and how does that like shift your perspective?
I really like, and I've heard you talk about it before, like somebody when they solution for you, kind of pushing you into the passenger seat or in the, in the back seat, they're getting into your car and they're driving your car. But which doesn't feel good if you're, if that was your car. But the idea of who's driving your own car, if you're driving somebody else's, who's driving yours? Right? Like that is, oh my gosh, that's an unattended car. Well, is it still in gear? All of the questions about my own car. Yet I'm so worried about theirs, which really it's not my car. I shouldn't have any, other than maybe pull up next, like, hey, do you need some assistance here? Right? Leaving them in their car and me staying in my own.
Yeah.
So just that, I guess that visual of my unattended car. And every time I go into solution for somebody else, I'm leaving my car, whether I realized it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really
So when we are solutioning, and here I'm gonna like kind of transition into what to do instead.
mhm,
Because I don't know about you, but I don't want any of that. I don't need more problems at my door. I don't need to be doing work and giving advice or giving solutions for things that people are not going to action. And I really don't want to take the blame or the responsibility for other people's work. I want them to be able to take responsibility for themselves. And while they avoid the responsibility and the responsibility stays on me, that's just weight on my shoulders.
mhm,
And we carry a lot of weight as leaders. We're not responsible for our own work and keeping our head down and what's on our desk. We're responsible for the performance of the team, not just one person, not just two people, but many people. And if we are problem solving all the time, then we're not taking care of what's on our desk. So we're getting in trouble for that. But we're also, there's other things to tend to support the team so they can actually achieve together that's not being taken care of.
mhm,
We're not moving the needle forward. We're just kind of stuck maintaining, fixing instead of moving forward.
mhm,
So in order to be able to do that, in order to be able to tip the scales of responsibility so people can take responsibility for themselves, so they can think for themselves, so they can act for themselves, something needs to change. And that change starts with you. That change starts with your role and how you're relating to others in problem solving. So as the manager, we tend to do when we're problem solving for others, we're doing for others. So the first transition out of this is going from doing for to doing with. So you're transitioning from being the manager to being a partner in your role, to partnering with people to help them find solutions. So the collaboration part, maybe I'm sharing my advice, maybe I'm doing some mentoring. I'm not just going to give it, they're going to have to work for it. But I'll do some work and I'll meet them where they're at. And then eventually you can move towards doing for themselves with your support, with your guidance. So that is when you're going from a partner to a coach. But you can't just go from doing for to like doing themselves. It's like what we hope for. But if you just, throw them in the deep end, and even if you're on the side and saying like, hey, this is how you swim, they're likely going to drown. And then it's going to reinforce this, well, they can't do it for themselves, so I have to do it.
mhm.
So it's reinforcing that mindset of needing to do for. So that transition happens, incrementally. So if you recognize any of this within yourself and within the situation, so if you are struggling with getting stuck in the operations, getting stuck in the problem solving, getting stuck in the firefighting, start looking at your role and start that transition, that first transition from doing for to doing with, and then eventually moving from doing with to doing themselves with your support. So you're not doing anymore, you're supporting.
Mm-hmm.
What questions are coming up for you, Kelsey Ann, as I'm talking about this?
I would think as an employee, the doing for doesn't feel as good, where the doing with or doing themselves feels a lot better.
Yeah.
As a manager, I would be wondering like how to kind of navigate through when you're seeing so much resistance coming up to, you know what, you're going to get me the solution, but I've always gone to you in solution, right? Like I don't know what to do. I don't know the solutions, and building up the confidence of your employee that they do in fact have those solutions. Because sometimes, and I guess that's my question, is like the resistance because they maybe lack that confidence behind it. Not that they don't want to do it, they just don't have it.
Beautiful question. Beautiful question. So on point. And it is true. Like you're changing the rules of the game. You might be doing it intentionally, but then people are going to be like, wait, what? What do you mean? You've been problem solving for me for 8 years and now you're what? What's happening right now? Am I in trouble? Like a lot of things are going to come up, and some of it is going to be confidence. Like, I don't know if I can do this. And what happens if I do the wrong thing? Do I get in trouble?
Mm-hmm.
Because so far you were the one getting in trouble if your advice didn't work, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were the one taking responsibility, and all of a sudden I'm taking responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
What will happen? Can I trust myself? I've never done this before.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had to do it before. So even if, they have good, they've had classically good problem solving skills in the past, maybe you hired them thinking, wow, what a good problem solver. They haven't had to use that muscle if you've been doing for them.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to have to reinforce it. So absolutely, there will be the resistance. So it's important to plan for that.
Mm-hmm.
So what are things that would help you build that confidence and step into that as an employee to start stepping into problem solving? I'm going to throw that ball right back to you, Kelsey Ann,
Mm-hmm.
because you have experience with this. We've actually done this.
Yeah, I was just going to say this is very, mirroring kind of what we're doing, and like,
and we are at that stage of I'm supporting you are self-managed at this point. So you have gone through that transition of doing for to doing with to doing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So what has helped you in your journey?
I think knowing that you're there to kind of help with the framework of what I'm building it has really helped me to build my confidence that as I start building a few pieces, I'll kind of check in with you. Hey, does this sound right? Does this work? And you're kind of like, well, that works, but maybe consider this and consider this. You're not telling me change this, change this, change this, but you're saying, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about this? Oh, okay. And then I kind of come back and kind of weigh those options. So it's still giving me the power and the control of what it is, but you're there alongside, a Voxer away to say, hey, I think we need to tweak it this way because of this, and just kind of helping guide me along that path in building that framework so that it can continue. Excuse me.
And what I'm doing in that instance is instead of telling you what to do, I'm informing you of how I think. If I were doing that, these are the things that I'd be thinking through.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm offering you some of my thinking process. So in effect, I'm teaching you how I think.
Mhm. And it's also, in doing it that way, it's allowing me to look and say, okay, if you're giving me 5 pieces of how you would do it, I've only considered 4. Oh crap, I'm missing one piece that I didn't consider. Okay, you're teaching me how you're thinking, but now in doing so, we've identified together that there's a missing piece, that I completely forgot about that one piece. So I find it very beneficial in the way that you do explain and teach your thinking process about whatever it is that we're talking about, so that I'm learning how you're thinking, but also kind of repatterning myself to model the way that you're thinking and thinking things through.
Yeah. So I'll expand on that just a tiny bit, and then I'll move to another couple of things that are really important here. If I give you the end result, if I do the thinking for you and say this is the answer, then you know the answer for A, you know the answer for B, but then when you encounter C, D, E, F, you still have to come for me to me. But if I say when I have problems that look like A through Z, this is my thinking process. These are the filters. These are the things I look at. Then it doesn't really matter if it's an A, it's an F, it's a G. You know the process.
You've shared that with me.
So you can come up with, like, based on this process, here's the answer I've come up with. Is this right?
Hmm.
So that's just kind of like another way of looking at what we just talked about, of sharing the how we're thinking through the problem versus what the solution is.
Hmm.
Another thing that's really important is to be very clear on the roles. My role, your role. So, hey, I'm going to help you think through this. I can even help you come up with options. It will be your role to decide which option you want to go
Hmm.
with,
Hmm.
right? My role, your role, to do that in the beginning, especially every time you're going to kind of shift. There have been times when I said, okay, Kelsey Ann, now, I'm handing you the ball. This
Yeah,
is your ball. You take care of this ball.
which is scary as crap, by the way. It's not in control. No.
And that's the third thing that I want to bring to at the table here is the fear. Of course you're afraid. What happens? What is the failure? Are you going to get fired? Like, what's going to happen? What is failure? What is the benchmark? So clarity around, how we treat failures. What is a failure? What do we do if we fail? What's really going to happen if we fail? And I would say in this, create a learning environment, a place where failure is just another take. It's a learning experience and we get to do it again.
Hmm.
And I'm also very clear on this is, this type of decision. If you do the wrong thing, we can always do it again. This is reversible. This is
Hmm.
not that critical. It's not going to break the business.
Yeah.
So we have a really good grasp on what kind of decision making authority you have. The repercussions on the business and what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, and what happens if things go wrong.
Hmm.
And then actually follow through on that.
Hmm.
So not getting upset when things go wrong, having your back and saying, no problem, we'll solve this together.
Yeah.
We'll fix it.
Yeah.
Not an issue.
Yeah.
And treating it as a team issue, not a one person issue when
Hmm.
the failure happens. So
Hmm.
it's not like, hey,
You messed up.
you messed up, but it's like, hey, maybe we can do things differently.
Hmm.
What can we learn from this? What do we want to do with this? How do we fix it? It is a we problem, not a you problem. So it's not personal to the person. And they can actually build their confidence through the learning rather than take the hit.
Hmm.
So teach them how you think versus teaching them the solution. Create the learning environment. And be very, very clear on roles. What is your role in this? What is their role in this? Is there anything else that you would like to add here, Kelsey-Ann? Anything that you've done that's been helpful?
I think you've helped me to see, and I know we use the analogy, like, the first pancake is always going to be, not such a pretty pancake. There might be some uncooked parts or whatever, some bits that aren't mixed up, but as you continue to make those pancakes, you're going to get better at those pancakes. And it's not a big deal if the first few are not okay. And that sorry, I've just lost my train of thought. It's gone.
Mm-hmm. So expectation setting.
Yeah.
Realistic expectations, because you can always assume that the person's expectations will be more. And when they don't hit those expectations, which is unrealistic because they're just learning how to do this, they need to know where the bar is at, what to expect, so that we're actually building their confidence level and not taking, I was supposed to hit it here, I hit it there, therefore I'm a bad person.
Yes.
And now I'm afraid to try again. So we want to say, hey, the bar is here. And look, you've hit, you've come ahead. Awesome. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. And then the bar can keep going up. So you want the bar and the competency to be kind of at the same place, and you kind of adjust with the person.
I think too, you've always been really good about seeing as a failure as like a falling forward. If we're falling forward and we're continuing and we're picking up and we're getting to do it again and saying, okay, learning from past mistakes and what are we going to do differently that time, like next time, that to me is part of that key too of the expectations that, whatever the results are, we're going to deal with it together and we're going to take it, we're going to learn, and we're going to move forward.
Yeah.
That's been really a big shift in my thinking, because it always felt previously in previous employers, it was always on me, whether I had the knowledge or not, to be able to make those decisions.
Yeah. So we don't want to that would be an example of like throwing you in the deep end.
Yeah.
Well, there's a transition period. We need to build people up.
Yeah.
And in building up the confidence, this person may not realize that they have capabilities, that they have the capacity for problem solving. So sometimes just asking about past successes. And when they can't find past successes, be ready to offer. When we worked on this project, I saw you do this. When this, offer specific examples of them succeeding in problem solving so they can start feeling more comfortable. So either problem solving in general or problem solving with a specific topic. So they can be reminded and they can be like, oh, okay, I'm not, because I've had this, it's a reoccurring nightmare for me sometimes when I teach. When I go teach, I will dream the whole night before that I show up for teaching and that people walk in the door and I've got nothing. I don't remember a thing. I've forgotten all the theories, all the concepts, all the know-how, and there's no words that come out. I even forgotten how to speak. Right. So when we are in those moments of stress, we forget what we know. We forget what we can do. So it just based on that fear, I could not show up. I could convince myself I can't do it. But then I show up and people walk in and I can teach for 3 days and not even have a moment of self-doubt, not even go into a place of I don't even know what to do next, or I don't know how to answer this question. Just be comfortable in my skills and be able to deliver for 3 days without skipping a beat. But it's because I've been able to move past this fear of I know nothing, I don't know what I'm going to do, to doing it and doing it consistently. So now when I have those dreams, I'm like, ha ha ha, my pattern, I always have a dream like that before teaching.
Right.
And then I succeed.
Right.
And I'm proud of myself.
Mm-hmm.
But in the beginning, this is after practice and practice and practice, but in the beginning, I needed to build that up.
Yeah.
I needed to look at my past successes. I needed to try it. I needed to be okay with failing. I needed to be, that's something we build up. So, in conclusion, if you've been struggling with getting stuck in the weeds, getting stuck in the operational, and needing to move out of that, consider your role in problem solving, how you interact with your employees, and moving out of the doing for to doing with, and eventually to supporting so that they can do themselves. And we've given you lots of great golden nuggets here. And my challenge to you would be to find one thing from this video, one insight that you can take away and you can action within the next 24 hours. Why within the next 24 hours?
So that it actually gets implemented.
That it actually gets implemented. If you don't do it within the next 24 hours, this will become another training video that will be put on the shelf of your mind. It's nice information. It was interested. It got you excited, but then you don't have the putting it into action, putting it into practice. And these things are not one and done. You have to start putting them into practice now and to keep coming back to it. So one insight that you can take away from today and start putting into practice. And if you found value from this video, please say hi, drop a little note in the comments. Let us know what you're taking away from today. We'd
love to hear those, what your one nugget is, right? I'd love to know, and I know you'd love to know.
Yeah. Perfect. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I hope this was useful. It was great after a few weeks of not, as I was teaching so much in the past few weeks, I haven't been able to do as many videos. So it was kind of refreshing to get back to it today. I had lots of fun. All right. Have a great day, everyone. And I'll see you next Wednesday.
That's good. Bye, everyone.